Welcome back. I'll start with an update about where things are relationship-wise. Yesterday was a heavy emotional day for me. The more I start unpacking things, reflecting on things, making observations, making connections, the more emotions are starting to come to the surface. And I'm seeing that it's not all about the past 2 years. It's really about the past 42 years. Hurts stemming all the way from my family of origin and childhood up through real and imagined hurts about the here and the now. The thing about compartmentalizing, which is my default, it's my go-to, it's what I do day in and day out, it's how I get through the workday, session after session after session of hearing and helping really heavy stuff. The thing about compartmentalizing is it's great only as long as you're doing it. But at some point, it's like a crack in the dam. Pressure starts to build and eventually everything spills out. That's what happened to me yesterday morning. He came over to have breakfast and spend part of the day together yesterday, and he walked into the house as I was having a very emotional release. Not really sure the best way to describe it. Try not to put overly clinical terms on it, but it's kind of felt like part panic attack, part emotional outburst. There were definitely tears. There was some ugly crying, like snot running down my face, ugly crying. There was definitely a sense of panic. It really looked and felt to me like what happens right before the panic attack sets in, overlaid with a lot of emotional just outpouring. It was really distressing for him to see, to witness. He didn't know what I needed in that moment, and he didn't know how to help. And I could see it on his face that it was paining him to see me in pain and did not know how to help. He did recognize that it was too much for him in that moment with the things that he's working on. And once everything calmed down, took about 20, 25 minutes, but once everything calmed down, I got into a more even-keeled space, a steadier space. He very patiently and gently told me that moments like that are just more than he can handle right now, and that actually they are a trigger point for him. That was really hard to hear. On the one hand, he wants me to be more emotionally available to him in ways that I haven't been before. He wants all of me. On the other hand, all of me right now is just a fucking lot to handle, and I can't handle it all. I'm needing additional support, so of course he can't handle it all. I'm really, really glad and actually thankful that he recognized his limit and he shared a boundary. It was hard for him to do that. He acknowledged it was hard to have that conversation. He acknowledged the kind of the dichotomy of what he's asking for versus what he can actually handle right now with our sharing and our processing. And I thought that was great, and I applauded it and encouraged more of it. But he set a boundary, and that's really great. He's going to be gone for a few days to kind of a secluded location out in the middle of nowhere to clear his mind for a bit, something he was wanting to do for the past couple of weeks anyway. Place where he has no cell phone service, no internet. He is out communing with nature. Great. Only has an old landline telephone, and in my mind I'm picturing like the old phone with a rotary dial hanging on the wall. So we might be able to talk for a few minutes a day for our check-ins, but the next couple of days we'll have very, very limited contact with each other, and we both think that's kind of good right now because as we're both unpacking and realizing things, we are both very, very, very emotional, and we want to make sure that we're not triggering each other into things that we shouldn't be. And I think that's great. I think it's healthy, and I'm actually quite proud of both of us for that. I want to share the exercise that I did yesterday. It's called 3 Good People. It is a strengths spotting exercise. According to the worksheet, people who know their strengths and use them every day tend to be happier, have better self-esteem, and are more likely to complete their goals. This exercise will help you enter the strength spotting mindset. And what it is it's about 3 good people. The first is a fictional character where you name an inspiring character from a book, a movie, or a TV show. You list their strengths, and then you describe how they use their strengths to overcome challenges or how they use their strengths in everyday life. I won't get into specifics about who I chose, but people who know me know that I love any Aaron Sorkin character. I think Aaron Sorkin is a brilliant screenwriter. I love the dialogue. I love the character development. I love the pacing of everything. So I picked a character that he created that is part of a show that I could binge watch over and over and over and over. The second person is, think about an inspiring person you know. This one was a lot harder for me because I know a lot of people that inspire me in different ways. And without thinking about it, I actually went to him as my inspiring person. I'm sure if I really delve down to the deep, dark recesses of psychology, I can come up with lots of reasons why I chose him for this exercise. But the reality is, right now, he is genuinely inspiring me. So when I thought about his strengths, I put emotional strength, determination, empathy, openness, fearlessness, loyalty, wisdom, humor, and describing it. You don't get a lot of room. It's a very limited amount of room. And yes, I'm covering up just the name, but you can see everything else. He has a huge capacity to focus on positive aspects of people and situations. He loves fearlessly and generously. He is very emotionally strong with a never give up approach to problems of importance. He inspires others. Yeah. In fact, I know how much he inspires others because just in the last week, I have seen him take phone calls from people who had previously been in his life in the capacity in which he works, who share with him the ways that he continues to inspire and motivate them. So I think I picked a really good inspirational person. The last one, and you've probably already figured out who your third person has to be, is you have to think about yourself. When I turned the page and saw that, I actually caught my breath. I held my breath for a minute because I wasn't sure I was really ready to do this. First thing, of course, is list your strengths. And I sat there with a pen in my hand, completely dumbfounded. Now, I know that I have strengths. I know that I have things I am good at. I know I have things I'm actually excellent at, areas where I excel in parts of life. But actually listing them, categorizing them, and listing them was really hard. So there was a chart that came with it with a list of very generic strengths. So I started there. I had to pick some. So the ones I picked for myself: intelligence, empathy, curiosity, wisdom, determination, fairness, kindness. And describing how to use these strengths in everyday life, well, that one caught me because what I wrote turned out to be aspirational in nature and not based on my current reality. The things that I wrote were about using my strengths to be of service to others, or at least trying to be of service, about helping and encouraging others to be the best versions of themselves, trying to learn more about the world around me and maybe trying to improve it in some way. And I do want to do those things, but it's hard in my mind to recognize that maybe I am doing at least some of those things, at least some of the time. So I picked up the phone and I called him and explained the struggle I was having with this part of the exercise. And he listened to me and he acknowledged why I would be having some problems coming up with some strengths. He pointed out that I've never been really good about acknowledging the positive aspects of myself, much less sharing those things or promoting them, whatever. It's why I'm really, really, really bad about marketing myself. It's a good thing that my business marketing, word of mouth referrals goes on a really good autopilot, because if I had to actually market myself, I'm terrible at it. He reassured me that that's just where I'm at right now, and that's okay. It's not a bad starting place. I just need to recognize what it is and face it, do something about it, not just wallow in it. To help me, he actually read a letter that I wrote to him that very day and had given to him. Pulled it out, read it word for word, all 5 pages of exactly what I handwrote to him. And hearing my words come out of his voice created this whole other cascade of emotional response that was so positive and joyous and uplifting. because I could hear in his voice that he was actually internalizing the things I wrote in that letter, that he was actually believing the things I wrote in that letter about him and about me and about us and about the prospects for the future. Hearing him say those things and hearing him sometimes be on the edge of breaking up a little as he's reading it. It was a very emotional connection between the two of us, and it really gave me a sense of peace. But knowing that he was internalizing, understanding, accepting, and believing the things that I had wrote, the things we had talked about, the things we had shared, gave me a sense of strength. It renewed my sense of understanding of who I am because I conveyed those things. I wrote those things. I shared those things. And they were all using the strengths listed on here. Every bit of that was in that letter. And that was his point. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful, touching, emotional gesture. I have a lot of gratitude that his mind immediately went there and saw that as an opportunity. That was actually really pretty fucking awesome. Just great. So the exercise started out fairly easy, transitioned to really hella hard, and ended on a much better note because I reached out and did the thing, which is part of this process. So I'm glad I did the exercise. I'm going to keep revisiting it. I think I'm going to do this one a couple of times as this process goes over the next month or so, just to see if I'm better able to recognize these strengths and if I'm better able to name them. When you name it, when you say it, you give it power, you give it voice, you're more likely to believe it and internalize it. So I want to see if I do this exercise a few more times every so often, do I have a better sense of recognizing my strengths and can I start to believe them on my own? So all in all, I'm going to say this was a good exercise. If anybody has any interest in these activities, if you want to try some of them for yourself, let me know. I am happy to share them. So that's it for day 2. I will be back tomorrow.